Welcome, race fans, to Pump the Brakes, the one, the only, the Cadillac of Formula One podcasts. I am your host, the Pitlane Patriot. The FIA has decided to cancel the Saudi Arabian and Bahrain Grand Prix due to conflict in the Middle East. That means no race coming up, but every Wednesday, no matter what, means no matter what, people. So we are here. We have a great show. We're going to go into some Ferrari. We're going to get into some Red Bull, some McLaren, and some Cadillac. Let's go. All right, so let's do a little Ferrari watch, because I've got a take here. Ferrari might be the team best positioned to make this month off hurt Mercedes the most. Not best team on the grid overall yet, but I'm ready to go as far as to say that they're absolutely the team that I'm watching closest coming out of the break. Right now, Mercedes still leads the Constructors' Championship with 135 points, while Ferrari is second on 90. The gap is real, but Ferrari also has been the clearest number 2 team throughout the opening stretch, and that matters. They're close enough to being relevant, stable enough to being dangerous, and calm enough internally that they can actually use the brake well. The reason why I'm not fully buying the Ferrari is just a second best period line is because the vibe around that team does not feel broken at all. It honestly feels constructive. After Suzuka, Fred Vasseur said that Ferrari had taken a third straight podium, knew exactly where the deficit was, and would work on it over the next few weeks. Charles Leclerc called Japan a positive race and said that the team would use the brake to take steps forward before Miami. I mean, Lewis Hamilton is actually happy, and he said that they would analyze everything from the first 3 races and come back even stronger. That is not the language of a team in crisis. That's the language of a team that thinks it has fight, it's not ready to give up, and believes it's just not quite reached its potential yet. And the biggest reason why I think Ferrari is worth watching is this. The weakness they are pointing to looks specific. It's not hopeless. Fred Vasseur said that Ferrari has a straight line performance deficit. Like, he pinpointed exactly where the issue is. High speed on the straights. It's a big deal. When a team can identify the problem that clearly, it gives the brake real value. You're not just staring into the void and guessing. You're saying, here's a piece of the gap, now let's go attack it. There's also been incredible reporting around Mercedes' power unit edge this year, including the controversy earlier in the season around engine behavior and regulation interpretation. So when people say that Mercedes may have an advantage on the power side, that's not just fan fiction. Like, they're legitimately, physically just more powerful, and they discovered something that makes them have a huge gap. Now, here's where I pump the brakes a little, though. I do not think that the engine is the only thing keeping Ferrari behind. Even Leclerc himself has said that Ferrari can find huge gains in all compartments of the car: power unit, chassis, aerodynamics, and tire management. That matters because even Ferrari's own camp is not saying that the rest of the package is already the best on the grid. They're saying there's room elsewhere. I personally think their chassis is amazing. Personally, I think that the way the team is operating is really good. The drivers are positive. The team is clear on what's wrong. And I think that their tire management strategies have been pretty good. But they themselves believe they have more, and that's a really, really strong message you're sending to the rest of the league that you have a lot of fight in you. And that's where this month off gets interesting. The paddock reporting around Ferrari is not small. There's talk of a meaningful post-brake package, like revised floor work, additional aerodynamic changes, weight reduction, cooling components for Miami, and maybe even a return of the Halo wing idea. You can look that one up, I'm not going to explain it. That's paddock reporting, not an official Ferrari press release, so I wouldn't state that like it's carved in stone either. But taken together with what Vasseur, Leclerc, and Hamilton are saying, it paints a pretty clear picture. Ferrari sees this break as a chance to come back sharper, and so do I. I think Ferrari is going to maximize this break, 100%. So the segment take from me is this. Mercedes is still the benchmark. Surprise, surprise, Mercedes is the benchmark. They earned it. Toto Wolff was told to change his fucking car.
You've got a problem, change your fucking car.
And he changed his car and created a rocket ship. Ferrari is a team that I personally, because I will be in Miami, am really excited to see challenge in Miami because I think that headlines could be made in Miami, but from Ferrari, and I want to be there to see it. I think that'd be awesome, and I think it's very possible. They're sitting second in the standings. They've consistently been the nearest challenger. They sound calm, focused. They know that at least one major area that needs improvement that can be improved, and lo and behold, they have a month to do it. They're going to have the most meaningful upgrade story of anybody coming out of this break. Period. Pitlane Patriot, signed, sealed, and delivered. I believe it, and hopefully it'll happen in Miami, where I'll be there to see it happen. But Ferrari is not the only team that I think is going to be interesting out of this break. Next up is McLaren. because I think they might be the most interesting team on the grid right now, outside of our team Cadillac, of course. Not the best team, not the cleanest team, but maybe the most interesting team. Because after China, they looked like a full-blown mess. Both cars failed to start the Grand Prix because of the electrical problem. Oscar Piastri had still yet to complete a race lap all season, and what could have been a contender suddenly looked fragile as hell. Then Suzuka happened. And now the question becomes, are McLaren actually back, or did they just stop the bleeding for one weekend? That's why Suzuka mattered so much for them. Friday had already hinted that the pace was real again. Piastri went quickest in FP2. George Russell admitted McLaren's pace was a bit of a surprise, actually. And suddenly the team did not look dead in the water anymore. Then on Saturday, Piastri qualified third, Norris qualified fifth, and on Sunday, Piastri jumped the Mercedes car at the start, grabbed a huge send into turn one, and eventually finished second. This gave McLaren its first podium of the season, and honestly, its first real weekend of life.
Go, boys.
Now, I do still think that Suzuka proved McLaren has a car that's worth taking seriously. This was not some fluky weather podium. This was not like a weird attrition result. The pace looked real. Piastri looked really sharp. Norris wasn't spectacular, but he still finished fifth, and that helped the team finally bank a normal weekend after a humiliation in China. So if the question is, does McLaren still belong in the upper fight? Yeah, I'd say yeah, they're in that top four. But here's where I pump the brakes a little. I'm not ready to say the McLaren are back. Because one decent weekend does not erase what happened in China, and it does not erase the fact that this team still feels less solid than Mercedes and less settled than Ferrari. Mercedes has won all three races so far. Ferrari has at least felt consistently constructive and with 3 straight podium weekends. McLaren, by contrast, has given us 1 round of total embarrassment and 1 round of genuine encouragement. That's not stability, that's just volatility. And that volatility matters because of where they're sitting in the championship. After Japan, McLaren was only sitting third in the constructor standing. And Lando Norris was still trying to keep himself relevant in the driver's fight, while Antonelli, Russell, Leclerc, and Hamilton had all put together cleaner opening stretches. So even though Suzuka was a relief is not the same thing as control. McLaren did not leave Japan feeling like the benchmark. They left Japan feeling like they had saved themselves from looking broken, if anything. I also think Oscar Piastri is the most important individual part of this story, because he is the one who made Suzuka feel like more than a repair job. He topped FP2, qualified in the second row, launched brilliantly, led the race early, and then held on for a second. I mean, it wasn't his fault there was that safety car. He did a pretty good job, and that matters. Not just because of the podium, but because it showed real composure after a brutal start to the season. If McLaren is going to become something more than a shaky, fast team, Piastri's going to need to keep looking like that version of himself. And Lando Norris is pretty interesting too, because he's still kind of sitting in the middle of this whole thing. He's quick enough to matter, important enough that McLaren's season still runs through him, but right now he does not feel like the main character of any sort of story. He feels like a guy trying to stop himself from drifting too far behind while other teams look cleaner and more complete. This is not an insult, it's just the reality of how the season has opened. It's only been 3 races. Give Lando a break, right? So my read on McLaren is this. Suzuka proved the team is not dead. It's alive, it's awake, it's a top 4 team. But it did not prove that the team is cured by any means. The car still looks quick enough to be dangerous. Piastri reminded everybody that there's real performance both in that car and in him. Norris is still hanging around, he's still performing pretty well. But until McLaren strings together a few clean weekends in a row, podium after podium, maybe a win, I'm still going to view them as more of an unstable top team rather than a fully restored contender. China was way too ugly to forget that quickly. Both your cars did not start. That's a stain on you for this season until you do something legitimately impressive. And that's why Miami becomes such a big test for them. Ferrari comes out of the break looking like the clearest threat to Miami. Red Bull comes out of the break looking angry and confused. McLaren comes out of the break needing to prove that Suzuka was the start of something, not just a 1-week recovery. They're here to prove something. If they're really back, then Miami should show it. They have a month off. They have time to get their shit together. So get your shit together. Show us why you are the defending drivers' champion and constructors' champion. And if Miami goes sideways, then Suzuka starts to look more like a temporary bandage than a turning point. So McLaren is alive again, but I'm not ready to call them stable. Suzuka gave them hope. I'll see in person what they do in Miami. This week I want to do a story about Red Bull, but I don't want to do a story about Max. I don't want to do a story about Laurent Mekies. I don't even want to do a story on the rookie. I want to do a story on Liam Lawson. Bear with me, folks. You'll understand in a second just why.
Plenty of chatter about Liam Lawson taking this.
So Liam Lawson. So the more that this 2026 season unfolds, the worse Red Bull's 2025 decision looks. Now, for those who don't know, last year, Red Bull Racing dumped Liam Lawson back down to the Racing Bulls junior team after just 2 races. Never heard of before in Formula One. Crazy, fully ready to be in that Red Bull Racing car. He was experienced, he was ready, he was a rookie at the right time. He got 2 races and was immediately demoted for Yuki Tsunoda. And at the time, it already felt brutally early. Now it looks even worse because Lawson is out here quietly building a case that the team pulled the trigger way too fast. Through the first 3 rounds of 2026, he's gone 13th in Australia, 7th in China, and 9th in Japan, which gives him 10 points already for the Racing Bulls. That's not superstar domination, but it's absolutely enough to say that this guy is doing a real job. And he's doing it in what their own team would call the 3rd best car. Because this team isn't doing their job if Liam Lawson is driving the best car. Max should be driving the best car, and his teammates should be driving the best car. Liam Lawson is driving, at best, this team's 3rd best car. 13th, 10th, gaining points in the first 3 races. Doesn't need to be superstar domination to show how much potential he has. And that matters even more when you zoom out and look at Red Bull as a whole. After Japan, Red Bull Racing had 16 points. Racing Bulls had 14. Read that again. The senior team was only 2 points ahead of the junior team after 3 rounds. That's insane. Lawson had scored the majority of Racing Bulls points, and he's doing it in the shadow of a demotion that came just 2 races. Yeah, 2 races into a season. So yeah, I think it's more than fair now to say that Red Bull's handling of Lawson last year looks rash, impatient, probably wrong, and probably was part of what got Christian Horner fired, rightfully so. The reason this segment gets kind of juicy, though, is because it's not just about Lawson. It's about what Red Bull's future might actually look like from here on out, because we are going to talk about the rookie. Max Verstappen is openly miserable. That's why I didn't want to start this headline with Max. That's why I don't really want to talk about Max much. He's admitted that Red Bull are in a midfield battle in after Japan that's more reporting about how frustrated he is with the car, the new regulations, and how interested he is in racing outside of Formula One. So that's Max's deal. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that a Mercedes move is guaranteed because that's still speculation, but it's fair to say that Max feels way less emotionally locked into Formula One, into Red Bull, than people would want. So his seat is shaky. Then you look over at Isaac Hadjar. And this is where the story gets a little interesting, because he's already in the senior Red Bull seat, and even in a bad car, he has shown flashes. He's just not yet stacking a huge points total, but he's clearly part of a future conversation because he's already getting through into the fire of the top team. And then there's the rookie, Arvid Lindblad, the only rookie on the grid, who might be the most fascinating long-term piece of all. He's only 18, he scored points on debut, and he's learning in the middle of a completely new regulation era. That matters, because if Red Bull are really heading toward a new chapter, there's value in having a young driver who learned and adapted during a huge change in the era. This is your guy for the future. If he can get through this kind of change, what can't he get through? So the strongest version of this take to me is not that the future Red Bull sits neatly into those 2 Racing Bull seats of Hadjar and Lawson, but I'm bringing up Hadjar and Lawson for a reason. Because at the end of the day, Red Bull's got 4 seats, and we're taught to just immediately look at those first 2. But right now, it's those back 2 that are really providing a foundation for the future of Red Bull. And that's why Lawson is such a powerful symbol in this whole story. He's not just scoring points, he's forcing people to re-examine the whole decision-making chain. If you dump a guy after 2 races and then a year later he looks composed, productive, and useful, while the main team is still a mess, that says a lot. It says that maybe the issue is not Liam Lawson. Maybe the issue was the system, the timing, the impatience, the environment Red Bull threw him into. Or maybe it's the fact that a team shouldn't have 2 teams in the pinnacle of motorsports. Somebody shouldn't have let this happen. But here we are. So my take is this. Liam Lawson is doing a hell of a job in 2026. He's proving that Red Bull's demotion call was a terrible decision. And bigger than that, he's part of a wider Red Bull reality check, because while Verstappen questions are the present, Lawson, Hadjar, and Lindblad are starting to shape the future. Maybe Max stays, maybe he doesn't. But either way, Red Bull's next chapter is no longer something to think about later. It's already happening right now. And last but not least, during this mid-race, weird, break that we have that no one expected, let's talk about our team Cadillac. So let's talk about something that mattered a lot more than one race weekend. Because while we were all watching the car on track, Cadillac was also building something much bigger in the background. Its own Formula One engine program. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Cadillac's future engine program. And that matters because Cadillac is not trying to be a long-term customer team. We'll leave that to Team Haas. The whole point is to become a full works operation. Chassis, power unit, hopefully even driver. Formula One has already approved General Motors performance power units as a power unit supplier starting in 2029. And until then, Cadillac will use Ferrari engines. So the engine story is not some distant fantasy. It's already real, it's already underway, and it's already a major part of what this project is supposed to become. And that's why 2021 engine talk is suddenly so interesting. Because yeah, there is real chatter in Formula One about what comes after the current engine cycle. Stakeholders remain committed to the 2026 regulations. The 1.6-liter V8 turbo hybrid era with a bigger electrical component and fully sustainable fuel is the one we're going with. But the sport is also discussing a possible long-term return to something simpler, louder, and more old school, including a V8 or V10 style concept running on sustainable fuel. So the headline here is not F1 is definitely going back to V8s. Don't panic. The real headline is, while Cadillac is building for the current future, the sport's already arguing about the next one. So we're going to talk a little bit about the complications that means for Team Cadillac. Now, the first thing to say is, this is not a panic story. If you hear V8 in 2031 and immediately think, wait, does that mean that Cadillac's engine that we're building in North Carolina is pointless? I don't think that that's the case. General Motors Performance Power Unit says its mission is to build the team, processes, and facilities to develop an F1 power unit capable of winning races and championships. And they want to do it as soon as possible. And the company says that it's focused on making electrification, hybrid systems, sustainable fuels, and high-efficiency internal combustion a priority. That means the investment is not just one engine block. It's the whole organization, the people, the systems, the dynos, the hybrid knowledge, the controls expertise, the software, and the factory base needed to play this game for real. But where it does get fascinating is the timing. Cadillac's own engine is due in 2029. If the current rule cycle effectively runs through 2030, and then Formula One decides to pivot to a V8 style formula in 2031, that would mean Cadillac could spend years building towards its first true works power unit only for that first architecture to have a pretty short-lived initial lifespan. So that's the tension. Don't panic, but it's something that we should watch out for because no rule is safe in Formula One, really. Like, things can change all the time, and we're trying to get our own power unit onto the grid ASAP, so we may face some complications, and they're complications that we're going to be ready for because General Motors is not exactly a small hobby shop. It's one of the biggest manufacturers in the world, and we'll be ready for what comes. And that is exactly why Cadillac already has a voice in this debate. Pat Simmons, now working with Cadillac as an executive engineer consultant, has said that a return to V10s or V8s is likely years away, if it's going to happen. And he pointed directly to new players like Cadillac, Audi, Red Bull powertrains needing time to amortize their investments in current engine directions, which they are going to get. Now that word matters, amortize, because these programs cost a fortune. You don't build a modern F1 power unit company, staff it, equip it, and run it for years just to get 2 seasons before the rules change and you're out. Simmons also suggested that a V8 could be more realistic than a V10 if they still want to go and meet efficiency requirements, probably keep some hybrid element. So even one of Cadillac's own senior technical voices, a respected voice in the entire industry, is basically saying, yeah, a V8 type future might make sense someday, but not in a way that screws the new entrants right after they've built the ladder. Formula One's not going to do that. They're not going to screw over Audi, Red Bull, Cadillac, who are currently investing a lot of money into expenses that need to be amortized over the lifespan of these cars and the next couple of years of Formula One. And this is the part of the piece that I think Cadillac fans should really focus on. Because the North Carolina engine project is not just about keeping up with the rule set. It's about becoming a works team with real technical independence. General Motors said from the start that this is a move to put Cadillac on a path to building its own F1 chassis, power unit, and I hope driver by the end of the decade. Dan Towers, CEO of the Cadillac Formula One team, said that General Motors and TWG were laying the foundation for a true F1 entry, while Mark Rees framed the whole thing as a way to showcase General Motors' engineering expertise. Mark Rees is absolutely ready to flex on all of Formula One with a super strong General Motors power engine, and Cadillac is his number one customer. Now, do I think the 2031 V8 talk is fake? No, I think it's real enough to watch. The sport clearly misses some of the drama, simplicity, and sounds of the older engines. And it also wants cost control and sustainable fuel to remain central. But I also think the key word here is post-2030. The FIA has said all stakeholders, including General Motors, are committed to the 2026 rules. Audi has publicly backed them. Other manufacturers have invested heavily around them. So the likely reality is not some sudden rug pull. The likely reality is this. Formula One is laying the groundwork for the debate after this cycle. While Cadillac races to get its first in-house engine on the grid, before that next debate becomes a decision. And honestly, that makes the whole Cadillac engine program feel even cooler to me. Because now it's not just we're building our own engine. It's we're building our own engine at a time where the entire sport is deciding what engine building is even supposed to mean. That gives the project stakes. That gives the Charlotte base weight. It gives the 2029 target a kind of built-in pressure. Cadillac's not arriving in some sleepy stable era. It's trying to become a works manufacturer right in the middle of a live argument about Formula One's workings, its technical future. So my final take is this. The 2031 V8 talk does not make the Cadillac engine progress less important. It makes it more interesting and maybe a little rushed. But it means Cadillac is not just building toward a debut. It's building towards relevance in a moving sport. The North Carolina program still matters enormously. The people, the hybrid learning, the combustion work, the controls, the systems, the culture, it's all happening in real time to build this team into a powerhouse to last years to come. So as always, every week, stick with me, stick with Cadillac. We're building always. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being with us. We had a great show. We're still in the middle of a month where we don't have any races, but it's every Wednesday no matter what. So we'll be right back here next Wednesday. Stick around. See you then.